Oh, hi! This video provides some introductory information about the use of social audits by companies within the global clothing sector. So, what are you waiting for? Come and join to our little tour.
Hi, Narsunians! Did you know that the summary of the academic works were broadcasted by Jeremy and Joname last Monday?
Oh, really? Come on, let's watch them! Broadcasting live at the MI department store. For today, it provides a summary of academic works that document the direct social pressures exerted on some of the major global clothing. The headlines: Land Drop 2001. Examples of direct social pressures exerted on some of the major global retail companies. Nike and Reebok are the earliest during 1990s. Spar 1998. Active players to engage in poor labor practices is their overseas production catalyst.
On 2005, Detienne and Lewis, their supply companies in developing countries. In 1996, news media such as the New York Times criticized Nike for building its wealth and products with the slave labor of young Asian women. The news created a nationwide stir among consumers, activists, and international corporations. Soon afterwards, Nike found itself in a sweltering spotlight with several non-profit group studies hitting the newsreels. It is no longer a new phenomenon for companies to adopt high standards of social responsibility. Rather, it has become common practice for them to adopt such policies in response to global community pressure. Many global companies are now seeking to demonstrate their socially responsible practices to such an extent that no damage to their reputation is possible.
Global companies have moved their production location from developed countries to developing nations. One of the predominant issues to be addressed is human trafficking, which is a very sad reality. The use of child labor is a major concern for many stakeholder groups, including investors, NGOs, media, and consumers. Using children as laborers constitutes a serious reputational risk for major global retail companies. Child labor used in overseas factories has historically been of concern within the developed nations.
In 2010, the ILO estimated that globally 2.3 million people die every year from work-related accidents and diseases, and a further 337 million workers are involved in accidents at work. The clothing manufacturing sector is notorious of fires that cause injury and death. This relatively recent development of commonly occurring fire accidents and deaths is frequently discussed by NGOs and the media. The provision of insufficient living wages also creates great concern for the international community and provokes labor unrest. Article 7 of the International Covenant on Economics, Social and Cultural Rights, or ICESCR, requires wages must be sufficient to avoid workers with a decent living. There is a discrete lack of agreement between business, governments, trade unions, and other labor organizations organizations as to what the payment of a living wage actually means. The survival of a company depends on how it responds to social pressures. Global clothing and retail companies have become aware that simply avoiding bad press is not enough to cast them in a positive light. Later on, we will provide a summary of academic works that document the direct social pressures exerted on some of the major global clothing and support retail companies.
Janame, what exactly is social audits?
Alright, sure, no worries. So, the meaning of social audits is a voluntary and help companies develop and implement fair practice programs that are transparent across supply chain. It can be undertaken by the aim of establishing whether an organizational is complying with his own or other recognized contemporary social issues such as minority employment and relations, environmental protection, community relations, and consumerism issues.
Okay, so that means a social audit
Is used to evaluate the working conditions.
existing in a facility or supply chain of a company.
Yes, it is. This process may take from few hours to a few days and involves a number of steps.
Many global companies have a dedicated social compliance team which prepares the information required for internal or external auditors. Other companies employ external and third-party auditing firms to undertake the company's social audit. An internal auditor engages in monitoring of corporate social actions and reports them to assist with internal decision-making. An external auditor will prepare a public audit statement about the outcomes of the auditing process.
Social audits,
Social standards
and corporate responses.
The social standards of the wider community provide significant directions to the way social audits are conducted. Many global non-government organizations and MNCs themselves have drafted requirements for particular social standards in their codes of conduct. Of all the standards developed so far, SA 8000 has set the global benchmark for social accountability and appears to be the most widely accepted.
A summary of SA 8000 standard elements follows. First, child labor. No workers under the age of 15, remediation of any child found to be working. Second, forced labor. No forced labor, including prison or the bondage labor. No lodging of deposits of identity papers by employees. Third, health and safety. Provides a safe and healthy work environment. Take steps to prevent injuries. Regular health and safety working training. Freedom of association and right to collective bargaining. Respect the right to form and join trade unions and bargain collectively. Where law prohibits these freedoms, facilitate parallel means of association and bargaining. Discrimination. No discrimination based on race, cause, origin, religion, disability, gender, sexual orientation, union or political affiliation, or age. No sexual harassment. Sixth, discipline. No corporal punishment, mental or physical coercion or verbal abuse. Working hours. Comply with the applicable law, but in any event, no more than 48 hours per week with at least 1 day off for every 7-day period. Compensation. Wages paid for a standard work week must meet the legal and industry standards and must be sufficient to meet the basic need of workers and their families. No supplementary deduction. Management system. Facilities seeking to gain and maintain certifications must go beyond simple compliance to integrate the standard into their management system and practices.
Social audits as a legitimating strategy. Why social audits are now being used by global retail companies can be explained by considering legitimacy theory. Legitimacy theory assumes that an organization will maintain its social status by corresponding to society's requirements. An understanding of the broader concerns of the public, as articulated in community expectations, becomes an essential prerequisite for an organization's survival. This chapter provides some preliminary understanding of the use of social audits by companies within the global clothing sector. Using legitimacy theory, the chapter highlights that the way social audits are undertaken by global clothing retail companies is consistent with the expectations of the social audits are a voluntary activity.
Just always remember, all commodities have their stories and some stories are not good, but take note, all of them, may it be good history or not, see to it that it will be worth it to be called ethical and worth the investment. Okay?